Greetings, and I welcome you back to Neo Inspirations. Today we are going to talk about the procedure for registration of copyright. And briefly, this procedure I'm going to start by giving you an outline of what you do. Then I'll go ahead to give the details of what actually happens on each step of your registration process for copyright. First of all, you need to be able to download the application form from the Uganda Registration Services Bureau website, and I'll shortly be mentioning it. Secondly, you need to gather copies of your work and proof of ownership. So that implies that, let's say if you are going to register a song, at least you should have it written down, including all your details, the full names, probably everything that identifies you, because remember in our previous video I did mention that the work should be reduced in material form. So one of the ways, of course, is that it should be in writing or it should be in other formats, some of which I'll be mentioning during this video. Thirdly, you need to be able to pay a non-refundable fee of 50,000, and this is paid via the URA portal. URA, for those who are not in Uganda, stands for Uganda Registration Services Bureau. Obviously, I suspect that in other countries also they must be having a website through which you pay. For example, in Rwanda, they must be having Rwanda registration. I don't know. Rwanda may be something, but I know that most of these East African countries have a provision for online payments. So if you are in Uganda, you pay 50,000 Uganda shillings for that registration. The fourth stage is that you will be required to submit a scanned copy of your application as proof of payment to the copyright@ursb.go.ug. I will be writing these websites in the description to make your work easy. Then, of course, Uganda Registration Services Bureau will issue you a gazette notice indicating that you have applied to have your work registered, which of course you now have to go through the process of gazettement. And then the last stage, you wait for 60 days. And during those 60 days, of course, it is hoped that during those 60 days, there is no objection that comes up, because someone might raise an objection and say, look here, that work is mine, or I have a claim over that work. That is if that person gets a chance of being able to look at the gazette to know that actually you are planning to gazette the application. So I'm going to give a detailed discussion of each of those steps that I've mentioned, like I promised. And I hope this information will really be helpful to you. First of all, the first step is that you need to gather the required documents. What are the required documents? You need to have a completed copyright application form from the Uganda Registration Services Bureau, like I have already mentioned. Secondly, you need to have a copy of the work. So that implies that you provide a copy of both physical and digital copy of the work which you wish to register. And this copy can be in writing, or it could be in CD, DVD. It can be a book, like I already mentioned last time. Copyright also applies to books or writings like poems, stories, academic books, etc. Then, of course, you also need a source code. So that means it could be in either of those formats that I have already mentioned. The third step under preparing the required documents is proof of ownership. Proof of ownership is required, especially if the work was assigned to you. And in future, I'll be talking about assignment and what is involved in assignment. And this can be maybe contracts. Someone could have assigned their work to you via a contract or other supporting document. Okay. Then, of course, you need to attach proof of identity. For Ugandans, you need to be able to attach a photocopy of your national ID. But if you're a non-Ugandan, you need to attach maybe a passport or a refugee ID if you're a foreigner. The second step is that you need to pay registration fees. I already hinted on them in the introduction. That means that for you to be able to pay these registration fees, you need to generate an assessment form. How do you generate an assessment form? You go to the URA portal, which is URA in small letters .go.ug, URA.go.ug. When you open that portal, you select the option of make payment. Then you select payment, then you choose the other NTR option. Then still under payment of registration fees, you enter details. For example, put in your payer information, select the agency or department. For example, now in this case, if you are going to pay copyright fees, that means you have to select or to choose URSB. URSB, for those who are not in Uganda, stands for Uganda Registration Services Bureau. So the agency here now is URSB. After that, you select the department under URSB. So that is now the Copyright and Neighboring Rights Act. Sorry, the Copyright and Neighboring Rights Department. Now, in the next field, you choose copyright. Then you choose pay fee. So that means you have to pay a non-refundable fee of 50,000 Uganda shillings. That is the application fees that you pay for this process. The third step is that you submit the application form. The application form, how you sign it. Remember in the first stage, you already downloaded the form. So now here you scan the document. Of course, that means you have completed your details in the document, in the application form. So you scan the document. Also, you scan proof of payment. So that means upon payment, you are issued a receipt. These payments, of course, if you are not well conversant with this thing of generating your own payment reference number, you can go to any commercial bank and tell them I want to pay for copyright. They generate for you an assessment form. You pay in the bank. Then after payment, of course, you have a copy of your payment receipt. So that means you also have to scan the copy of your receipt alongside your application form. The next step under this process is that you have to email the documents. So you scan the documents very well, that is the application and proof of payment, and you email them on copyright at ursb.go.ug. Copyright at ursb.go.ug. So after finishing that stage, this is what happens. URSB issues with you a proof of your application. It's like a notice of you it's a notice that you have applied. So it's a notice of your application to be published in the Gazette. So at this stage, that means you are required now to start the process of gazetting. Gazetting, of course, in Uganda has ranges between 120,000 to 450. But you need to go at least with around 300,000 to be able to gazette. Then you have to wait for 60 working days. After 60 days, so the purpose of waiting, of course, after you have gazetted, the gazette is issued. Then you wait for 60 days. The purpose of waiting is to make sure that in case there is someone who has intention to object to your application, they can raise it, and that objection can be attended to, so that they are sure that there is no other person who is trying to register your work. So that means that you need to be able to pay attention to those Gazette notices, because they are not in such a, okay, of course they are always issued, but you need to always be careful and look out for those, because someone can easily register your name, your work, under their own name. So the purpose is to give someone a chance in case there is another person who claims that work, to raise their claim so that it can be attended to. After the lapse of the waiting period, or it's called the objection period, if no objection is received, then the work is registered, and upon registration, you are issued a certificate of registration. So briefly, that's what you need to go through. Number one, you download the application form. Number two, you fill in the form and also get a copy of your work. Number three, get assessment and pay the required fee, which is 50,000. And I have already explained that. Number four, submit your application form by emailing the documents. I'm going to put the email in the description section of this video. The next stage, Uganda Registration Services Bureau will issue a Gazette notice, which you take to the Uganda Gazette, pay the requisite fees. I've already given you a range, but if you really have 300,000, you can be able to start from there. Then you wait for 60 days. If no objection is raised, your work is registered and you are issued a certificate of registration. If this video is helpful to you, comment, like, and if you have not yet subscribed, please subscribe. More good things are coming up. Make sure that you don't miss on these videos. I remain Neo Kwizera, a Ugandan lawyer who is passionate about helping people to know the law. Tell a friend to tell a friend. I know this information may be helpful. And if you are helped by this information, please leave us a comment. If there is an area of the law that you are interested in, also make it known so that we can prepare videos that meet your needs. Thank you so much.